All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I know a few folks are still jumping on, but we do have a lot to cover today, and I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to cover everything that we want. My name is Will Cooper. I'm the training coordinator for Infowise, and in our session today, we're going to look at an example of an HR leave request system that we've developed completely using out-of-the-box SharePoint in addition to Infowise tools. My background is in web development and Microsoft-related technology. As many of you, I wear a lot of hats, so I've done training, consulting, teaching, all kinds of things. So I like to have a variety of challenges. I have about 2.5 years working with the Infowise product, and I do love this tool set. I've been able to develop really sophisticated solutions for customers, and I enjoy the opportunity to share some of that success with others, and I certainly hope to help you to see the possibilities and the flexibility of this tool set. It is truly awesome. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. So as I go through the demo today, my purpose is to demonstrate how you use the Infowise tools to create the solution. I am going to show you a solution that I put together, which I hope would solve a lot of the goals that you may be thinking about in terms of having a flexible system for your own company. But more importantly, I want you to see that these tools allow you to meet your own specific requirements, and furthermore are able to do that without you having to write any custom code. So it's very accessible and very flexible. To start out, I'm actually just going to walk through the basic functionality of this system that I've created here in SharePoint. So to do that, I'll just start out on this dashboard that I created. You can see that I have this system which I've called Leave Request Manager. The dashboard you're looking at is set up so that any employee would look at this and it shows specifically the things that pertain to them. So there's two key lists for this system. One is a method for them to put in a leave request, which is then going to go through an approval process, and once that is approved, the other key list here is a leave tracking list. These are where the actual leave dates are entered by someone in HR, and they would show up in a calendar which everyone can view. So to start out, I'm going to kind of look at the beginning here, and I'll show you what it would look like for an employee to put in a leave request. Okay, so pretty straightforward. You can see there's not many fields in the form. They just put in their name and then the name of their manager. And then there is a associated items list of dates. So in some systems you might see a date range or something like that, but as many of us have experienced, sometimes you can run into a challenge because one day might be a carryover vacation day, another day may be a regular vacation day. So we want to have the ability to kind of break that down by day. So when I click on this, it's going to bring up a sub list where I can add items very easily. So in my example, I'm just going to add 3 dates in January. We'll say the 20th through the 22nd. And this would accommodate for a partial day too. You can see it just defaults to 8 hours. And I've got categories for vacation, carryover, personal day, or sick days. Of course, you could use whatever categories you need. This is just our example. And the way this works, it'll stack up in this. So I have a many-to-one relationship set up in this tool. So you can see it's really fast to just enter dates in here. I can use the calendar pop-up picker, or I can just key in a date. Pretty simple to do that. Whoops, I goofed on the year on one of those. Let me fix that in a second. these would be for January 2016. Okay, so basically as the employee, I'm just saying I want to take off these 3 days, and I'm taking these as vacation days. I check off a box to give my signature. This is an Infowise field. It'll add a date timestamp, and it signs off on this. And then the default status will be requested, and after I submit this, the other appropriate users could come in. We can have an approval system here. So we have a place here for approver 1 and approver 2. So this could be customized depending on what your needs are. So all the requester needs to do is just put in this very basic information. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And then what would happen is we'd have an email alert that's generated using the Infowise tools. I'll show you that in a second. And so that would alert the manager and the HR person that they need to go in and take a look at this request. You can see it stacks up in my view, so I know that I've made my request. And then also I've got a expandable detail section that shows the dates related to the request. And then below this, the leave tracking, this would show items that have already been approved and entered in the leave tracking list, which I'm going to move over to now. So for the leave tracking, basically we've got some SharePoint calculated fields that are going to do some things for us. So we have an accrual rate in a department, and a calculation is made based on this. So automatically, depending on which part of the year that you're in, we can use a calculated field to do that. So we have something that's automatically counting how many days have elapsed since the beginning of the year. The other part of the system is it does do it by year. So you can see for test user 2, I've got in there 2015 leave tracking in 2016. So this is just to break things up a little bit, make it a little easier to do that transition from year to year in terms of thinking about limits that are typically annual in terms of how vacation works and how you can do carryover and that type of thing. There are KPI indicators that we have built in that helps us quickly have a visual indication for employees that would be low on hours or even over. You can see in my case I like to take lots of vacation, and somehow I've managed to exceed my vacation. So you see I have a nice red stop indicator to show that. So it depends on the rules of your organization, but this could help HR in terms of trying to figure out where employees are and trying to be proactive in terms of helping them out. I'll just show you in terms of entering information, it's much the same as the list that I was just in. So if I was entering, for 2015, I was entering dates in here. I've already done that in this example, but you can see how the form is set up. Same as the other one, I just add in the dates and the category, and then one thing that's important here, we have a setting for the department, and we'll get over to the calendar, you'll see how that applies, so we can do some filtering. And then, as we all know, some employees get more vacation depending on how long they've been there. And this accrual rate is doing tracking based on how many days they're supposed to get per year. So this is important because those earned days, that's automatically calculated based on this. It multiplies on that. And then the carryover hours is something you could enter manually when switching to the next successive year. So the system is set up for that. So basically you have an earned hours plus the carryover. That's the way the system is set up. One thing that's really nice about this, there is a common public calendar that everyone can look at, and it's going to show who's on vacation. So These are color-coded. It's keyed to the department of the employees, and you can see what that might look like in this calendar view. Now in my case, it was pretty simple because I'm just putting in a few employees. You can imagine this could get cluttered potentially if you have hundreds of entries. For that reason, we definitely need to be able to do filtering, and the Infowise calendar does allow for you to do that. So at the top I can filter and say, well, I just want to see the vacation for employees in the engineering department. So this is important. We still get the month view calendar, but we have a way to break it down and make it easier for employees to view. And then another part about this Infowise calendar that's really nice is the information that's shown when I hover, and that is fully customizable. So I can get that detailed information just by hovering over the date, and you can see how many hours, what the category was for the entry, and even when this was set up. I could say, oh, okay, HR put it in at that time. So that is kind of an overview of the functionality of this system. What is really great about that is those earned hours and the hours remaining. All of that's auto-calculated, so nobody's sitting there crunching numbers. It doesn't leave the possibility for human error, so that's a really key aspect of this. And then also those indicators calculate. And we have a system day variable in the background, which is helping keep up with this. So these numbers are continually updated as you move through the year. And I should have mentioned this before. If you have any questions during the presentation about anything, just about the product in general or the solution, please enter your questions in the chat. Vladi is on, and he'll answer those questions for you and follow up as you're watching this. So that gives you just a demonstration of the intended functionality for our tool. Now what I really want to get at is how do you set up this kind of functionality? How is this possible without having to do any custom code? And I'm going to show you how this is configured with the Infowise tool. So this solution all is built using SharePoint lists. There are 4 lists that are used overall in this solution. For the requests, we have a leave request list. You saw me put in my own leave request. We have a subtable related to that to give us the many-to-one relationship for the date. So that's the leave request dates. You saw how I could keep stacking dates in that request. And then on the HR side of things, we have a leave tracking list, and that's where you put in the employee and the year. And then underneath of that, there are leave tracking dates. So these are where HR is. We've already gotten the approval, and they're actually officially putting that onto the calendar. So we have those 4 lists working together. The first thing I want to show you is how you get that many-to-one functionality. That's really useful, especially when thinking about we want to do things like a relational database, or we might want to model a system that might have been done previously in a Microsoft Access database or something like that. You can create that kind of system in SharePoint with Infowise. So to do that, if you want to have an associated items list, I would go into that sub-list that I created. I'll go into the leave request dates, and I'll show you how you would go about doing that. So in the list settings, there is a content type setting. Now, by default, it's just item. This was a custom item list. So what we're able to do is change that, and you can just go into the screen and change to this custom Infowise type, which is called Infowise Associated Item. Once I've done that, I can go to the parent list, which is leave requests, and it's real easy. I just create a field called leave request dates. It's an Infowise Associated Items field, and when I go in there, it's automatically going to detect this other list that I created because I've set it to be an Infowise Associated Items list. It's all done with drop-down pickers. I don't have to paste in some ugly path or anything like that. And typically it's just automatically pulls up because we don't have many of those lists in our site. And then there's some other configuration I can do in terms of how that looks to the user. But that's really all that I needed to do in order to set up that kind of functionality. The color choice fields that you saw on the leave tracking list, those indicators, those really stand out. This is important because, as you guys know, in a lot of screens in SharePoint, things can look very plain and uninteresting, and everything kind of blends together. And this is an area where Infowise is really useful. To set those up, instead of choosing a regular SharePoint choice field, you can choose color choice, and lets you pick those icons. I'll show you how you would access that functionality. So if I go into the leave tracking list, and again, all I have to do is go into the list settings, and then you can see some of these fields that I've set up. I'm looking at the field types on the side. So we have Infowise indicator, and when you do that, it lets you map things. I mentioned that we wanted to know when employees were running over on vacation, that type of thing. And so when I go in here, it gives me a selection of icons to pick from. So it's just a way to help things stand out a little bit. Okay, so one thing I wanted to do, sometimes I tend to just show you things that are already set up, and I want to actually walk through a setting with you just to demonstrate actually how easy and how quick it is to add functionality and customize these settings. At the moment, I actually don't have any email alerts for leave requests, but of course we certainly do want email alerts. We'd like an email notification when an employee adds that request. And also we want to do it for edits and also when it's approved. So in order to do that, I just go to the List tab up in the ribbon menu. And when you have Infowise installed, you just go to the Add Alert icon. It's right adjacent to the Alert Me icon. And that opens up the custom Infowise menu where you can do these alerts. So automatically, because I've come from the context of the leave request list, it's going to have that up in the title. And what I'm going to do is just change that title based on what I'm doing. So I call this tool Leave Request Manager. So I'll just put that as something for the summary if I'm pulling this up later. So this is just what I'm titling it for reference. So it is the current site list. I don't need to change anything there. For recipients, it's automatically going to detect. I can fill in dynamic information here. So for this email message, I can actually go to the field values. We have a requester, and we have some other users that we'd like to add. So specifically, I want to make sure that the requester is copied. And I just click Add, and I just repeat that process to add other users too. We'll make it go to the requester manager also. And of course I can do CC and blind copy as well. So I can either put in static values if I want certain people to always receive that, or I can use those field values from the form. And then I need some conditions on when this happens. This is an alert I want when the item's created. So I just select that first checkbox for added, and that's all I need. I don't need any other special conditions. I just want that email to go out at that time. Default options are fine in many cases. For when to send, that's fine. I want it to go out immediately. And then I actually created templates for this. I'll show you what those look like. They're really easy to do. And usually you can just kind of set the same value for each of these four. So I'll pick that. And then for the templates, if you want to see what this looks like, I'll just show it to you real quick. I'll show you one of them. So basically, you've got a visual editor tool. Again, it's no code. If you wanted to, you can go into the HTML if you're looking to do something custom, but really you can just highlight and bold and do whatever you need. And then on the right pane, you see the field values from your custom list. And in order to add those, you can just click on these links on the side. And so you can very quickly build up a template, and then additionally have options to update columns. So really quick to set up those templates. You can use them for multiple alerts if you want to. So I've already got those set. I've mapped it to that. I just need to click add, and we've created an email alert which will always get sent out and copied to the relevant users every time a request goes in. Now we'd like to also have that happen for edit. So I'll just go ahead and put that in real fast. Okay, so this is leave request manager, request updated, current site, current list. We'll go out to the same people we selected before. We'll make this go to the requester and to the requester manager. Okay, and then in this case I just want it modified, and I've already created my template, so I just need to pick that. So this was for updated request, so I'll just pick that for my drop-down boxes here and click add. That's all there is to it. So now whenever this gets updated, we'll have those emails automatically generated. For the purpose of time, I'm not going to put in the completed one, but obviously the requester would like to know when this gets approved. So for any of these lists, we can set up these custom updates. So I showed you a little bit about the associated items list and how to do the relationship in there. One thing I want to take a look at real quick is, how does that work with the accrual rate and keeping up with the number of days, all that kind of stuff. So we'll take a look behind the scenes. I'll show you a little bit about how that works. So that's in the leave tracking list. You may be asking yourself, why isn't this just all one list? Wouldn't that be easier? The reason I broke this into two lists is so that you can more easily do settings for permissions. We know, for example, we want HR to be the one who actually enters the official date. So you would do list permissioning for leave tracking. So you make it so that only the appropriate HR employees can make updates in this list, whereas on the leave requests, we know we want employees to be able to enter those and update those. So that's why we split those apart. So in the list settings, we did use some calculated fields, and then also we have Infowise actions, and these are important. One thing that we need to be able to do, and SharePoint unfortunately is not great about this, we need to keep up with whatever the current date is. And for the purpose of field calculations and things like that, we don't automatically have that. What we can do with Infowise is create our own system day variable, and we can just make it update every night. So really easy thing to set up. You can see that I just set a couple toggles on when I want this to run. I have this set to run daily at midnight, and pretty much default settings for advanced, and then every night at midnight I'll update this value to the today setting, and it'll just stamp it with the current day's date, and for the item I just say that I want it to apply to the current item, and this gives us the system day variable which we can use for the other calculations. You can see that I didn't really have to do much of anything in terms of custom actions and workflow for this tool. I do have something in here to update a year number variable. I needed a way to differentiate because we're going to break this into different years for the employee for tracking purposes. The Infowise tabs section, this is how you set up a custom UI. You may have noticed in the request section that I had a second tab for the approvals. This is important because users get overwhelmed if you're showing them a lot of information on one form. So setting that up is just as simple as defining what you want in the tab, and then you just move fields from left to right in this tab setting area, and this just controls what's going to appear in those tabs. So that's what I've set up. Those are the fields in the form. In this particular form, we only had one tab, but you saw earlier that on the request system there was more than one. And then permissioning is important. I know when you're working on this type of system, you may have concerns about what certain employees are able to do and that type of thing. Typically, when you're doing permissioning, so you want to try to keep it as easy to manage as possible, but you do have the ability to control that when you need to. In our case, we have many fields that are auto-calculated, or the system updates those, and so we have the ability with Infowise to select those individual fields and control the permission. So that's done with the advanced column permissioning. And then, as I mentioned, the other fields are just basic calculated fields using SharePoint. Carryover left is the carryover hours minus whatever's been used, that type of thing. So these things are all pretty intuitive. The trickiest one in there, the earned dates, that gets a little tricky, but with some experimentation you can kind of pick that up. Basically, you have to work out that there are 8 hours in a day, and then we do some division to find out, based on whatever day in the year you're at, divided by 365, you can use that as a multiplier to say how many days are available. There's lots of ways to do this. This is just one example of the way you might configure this type of system. And then the last component to this was that calendar. Now, the calendar is really just tapping into the leave tracking dates list. It uses that list as a source for its data and then visualizes that. We do have a lot of really nice configuration options to do this. This is an Infowise calendar, custom calendar web part. And to get into that, you would customize this just like any other web part. You come into that drop-down menu in the upper right. It's being kind of fidgety with me. There we go. And then there's a lot of different options in terms of what's set up. So usually what you're doing is mapping it to a list. So this one is mapped to the leave tracking dates list, and then I have a lot of configuration in terms of how this looks. I can set up limits, I can control how the views are set up, and then under the data source, I can actually go in here, I mentioned, and I can control what shows up in that hover detail menu, which is nice because by default I have a nice, clean, simple view, but when I want that detailed information, all I've got to do is hover in that calendar. I've selected those 7 fields, but you can see that every field is available to me. So a lot of flexibility there. And then for the coloring and that type of thing, that can be configured through Infowise as well. So simple to do the basic setup, but you have the flexibility to control that and do whatever you need. And then one thing that's also nice is I can toggle into a week view mode as well. And this is just on a basic SharePoint wiki page with that web part added. Certainly, depending on the size of your organization, we could make lots of different pages with any number of filtered views of the data. So if your concern is about too much clutter in terms of all the vacation entries, we could get even more specific with that filter if you need to filter more than just by department. So this was all built with Infowise. There's no custom tools or CSS or HTML or any of that type of thing behind the scenes. Really, from my perspective, I could take the solution and if I went to any one of your individual organizations, I could take your requirement and working with the Infowise tool set, I could put in whatever validation I need, whatever I need for email alerts, whatever requirements, whatever your rules are, you could do that. And that's really the purpose of this demo. And furthermore, this is about an HR request system, but when you use the Infowise tool set, of course this leads to other exciting opportunities. You may start with this system. And once you've got that tool set loaded into SharePoint, you can build other related systems. Of course, HR has a lot of needs to do tracking on employees, so this would likely lead to other opportunities as well. One thing that's really developed a lot in this last year, which I'm excited about, is the Infowise Office 365 offering. All the things I showed in our demo is using an on-prem SharePoint environment. However, I can also do this all completely from an Office 365 environment using all this functionality. Really the only difference is that some of the interface and the screens that you go to look a little bit different in terms of the UI, but all of the functionality is there. So this is a very compelling opportunity for smaller organizations, and especially when considering the flexibility and the pricing option, because it is based on user licenses and sites, and it's a really great value in my opinion, and a great path for people who are just getting started to be exposed to the Infowise tool set. There's a lot of opportunities where I could take the system, like I said, based on whatever the requirements are. We could do something like find out if there was a stalled request. We could send out an email alert in the situation, for example, with my vacation where I actually exceeded the number of vacation days. We could do some tracking to detect when people aren't using their carryover days. You may have a deadline on that. A high number of sick days, that was also in there. I mentioned that there's really no limit in terms of the filter views on this list data for the calendar or any of the other views. So we could have more calendar views. So that really concludes most of the thing I wanted to demonstrate with my solution. So for takeaways, what I really hope that you consider mostly is thinking about the flexibility of the Infowise tools in terms of what it adds to SharePoint. But I also hope this gives you some ideas in terms of how you might implement that in your own solution. We've got lots of great training and guides on the Infowise website. That's at infowisesolutions.com. So please take the opportunity to go out and look out there. We've got lots of video demonstrations in that training. So especially as you're getting started, if you feel like you're stuck and a little frustrated, a lot of those examples show walkthroughs and give you a nice step-by-step on what to do. And then the last thing I'll say is please provide feedback to us. If you have some ideas or questions in terms of a specific project that you're working on, please reach out to us. We're always interested to see what our customers are looking at doing. My email is willc@infowisesolutions.com, or you can just go out to the Infowise website and post there as well. So that concludes our demonstration for the HR leave request system. We'll be demonstrating a different solution in January, and we'll continue to show some other opportunities. And I also know about some updates that are going to be coming with the Infowise software. So that's another exciting thing. When you have the software, it's constantly being improved and getting additional features. So that's really a great benefit. So thanks everybody for taking the time to join us today. And I look forward to speaking with some of you later after this presentation. Thank you very much.